Welcome to the How to Adult with Travis Walker podcast. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button so you never miss another episode of How to Adult with Travis Walker. Make sure that you also press the like button, the share button. There's even a contribution button. I just like pressing buttons. I feel like you should like pressing buttons too. So press all of the buttons for me, please. We have a little bit of a long show today, but it is an incredibly inspirational show. Our guest today gets very vulnerable with us. He's a fraternity brother of mine. He's a personal trainer, and he's been through the ringer in terms of career confusion. His name is Lalo Escovar, and he's going to help us learn how to adult. All right. Welcome, Lalo. Thanks for being here, man.
Hi. No, thanks for having me.
I think we are going to learn so much from you.
I hope you all will learn some lessons that I had a hard time learning over this past year for sure.
Yeah, so I brought Lalo on because I've kept up with Lalo because he's a fraternity brother of mine, and we're in this series all about career confusion, and I've kept up with you, and I've seen you just try all of the things, and I think that is incredible.
Thank you. I don't know. I like to try a lot of things when it comes, because there's a certain part of me that is always conflicted on like, what do I want to do for the rest of my life? You know, like I think we've always been kind of accustomed to, or kind of taught that you pick one career and you do it for 40, 50 plus years and you're supposed to retire. And when I was going to do, I changed my major like 8 times when I was in college.
Wow.
Like I was so indecisive, like, because I just didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. And then post grad, I started to meet like more people that, older individuals that have been in their said career for 40, 50 plus years. And a majority of them can say that they wish they would have done something different. That they wish that they would have done what made them happy versus what was, I guess, what they did from when they first started until they retired. So that is something that has kind of just been a conflict of mine, because I don't want to be in a said position or occupation that I don't want to end up hating 50 plus years from now.
Yeah, that's super important.
I'd rather, so it's been interesting trying to try everything. And so that started from doing consultant work in the public affairs sector, then nonprofit, and then there was an interest of going into the modeling entertainment industry, so I tried it. It's still there. There's some issues that we have to take care of, and then but I've always been a big into health and fitness, and so I got my certification to be a personal trainer, and so now I'm trying that route and see where that may take me.
Nice. Well, you just kind of gave us the cliff notes to your story, which is fantastic.
Sorry, I tend to ramble.
Yeah, so we're gonna dive into all of what you just said, but yeah, that is exactly what we are here to talk about. So I wanted to start off with just for context, how old are you now, and what part of the world do you live in?
So I am 25 years old, and I live in Austin, Texas.
Wow, wonderful. And you hinted at this, but throughout life, we're asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to be when you grow up? So I'm going to ask you, looking back, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh my gosh. So I think like from at a young age, I thought I wanted to go into the medical field. You know, I thought I wanted to just go into med school and become a doctor. But I think that's coming from generational, like, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess like generational like tradition or upcomings of like specifically for families of color, or like that, you know, to go down the medical pathway was supposed to be the best option because it's stable, it's good money and whatnot. So I remember going to a high school specifically for like their pathway in the medical pathway program that they had there.
Yeah.
So instead of like some electives, we would be taking med terminology. We like by the time I was in junior or senior, we were doing clinical rotations at the local hospitals around. So that's what I thought I was going to go into until I got into college. And I remember specifically like my freshman year, I was taking just functionals of biology, which is a requirement if I wanted to go into med school, and realizing that I'm not sure if I want to be in school for that long. Like, I'm not even sure, like, that's what I want to do. I was just doing this because I was told that I needed to do it.
Right.
So come college, that's when I tried to like experiment with like my interests and figure out what I like from there.
Yeah.
So
So your first major was pre-med, is that correct?
yeah, so my first major was biology, and well, that was like before classes had started. That's when I went to orientation. They're like, you have to pick a major, so I picked biology, thinking that was for pre med, and it was until then I got advised, and then it got switched to microbio with a minor in biochem,
Sounds
and
lovely.
then I had. I when they changed it, I didn't even change it. They changed it for me, and I looked at them like, yeah, no, this is not happening. So I went into communication studies afterwards. That was a big switch because I was taking the intro freshman communications class, and I just loved the class. Like, just loved the professor. I loved what we were always talking about, and so I don't know. I figured because I liked that class so much and I was doing really well, let me change my major to that.
Right. And so
And
jumping
then
back just for a
oh
moment,
yeah, yeah.
with what you were referring to earlier, were you trying to break what's called generational poverty? Is that what you were going down, or is that
N-
separate?
no, I guess a generational way of thinking,
Okay.
more of
So cultural.
cultural, yeah, like a cultural like like cultural thinking of, you know, specifically from like my family and like what was always just taught, like, you know, you find a stable career and that makes you good money and you live happily ever after, you know, that was like the sense.
Right.
But because of like my parents and like I guess my grandparents and great grandparents and everybody else before then, like it was, you know, around the Great Depression area and whatnot, like you find a job and like you stick with it regardless, you put in your work and whatnot regardless if it makes you happy.
Right. So we're in
um
your first year of college, and we've already hit
yeah,
three majors. Am I getting that timeline correct?
yeah, basically,
Okay.
so three majors in. And then we went to exercise sports science, so went back into medical and with the emphasis in physical therapy. And then I just wanted to do health and fitness management, thinking I'd rather just do the business side of the fitness industry rather than the science. And then uh, I don't know, after realizing I just felt so burnt out by anything regarding the medical field, and being so involved on college campus that majority of my friends were studies like majors, mass communications majors, something regarding entertainment and whatnot. And I was surrounding myself with those people and being involved in organizations that come with those skill sets. So I decided just to go back to communications, so mass communication studies specifically, with a minor in business admin, and kind of just finish school and figure out life
Right.
with that.
So you graduate
So
with this mass comm with business administration degree. Is that correct?
yeah, it's technically mass communications with an emphasis in multimedia production,
Nice.
and then with a minor in business administration. So I've been literally all over.
Right. So naturally, that's what you get a job in right out of college, right? Because we all use our
Right.
degrees.
That's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I thought. So, I mean, because my senior year, I thought I wanted to go into news broadcasting, and it was around the same time where the fake news era was going through,
Right.
like the TV and whatnot, and just also my senior professor, I wasn't really fond of. He made me hate news altogether. I started figuring out like how much their starting pay was with the college degree,
Wow.
and it was between like 27 to 30 a year.
Mm.
And I just coming out of college, I just felt like after all the work that I put in to this into my portfolio, and I'm expected to, I know, like regardless, I know like some places you're supposed to start. You start where you start and you work your way up.
Right.
But I think there comes into question, we pay so much, we go into so much debt, and we're not, and in a way it feels like your worth as a student, what you learned, is not reflected in what you're being paid.
Yeah, that's a hard place
So
to
that
be.
completely turned me off from that aspect, from that job.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely pretty enough to be on TV, right? But
Oh my goodness.
but
You're funny,
yeah, but we
funny.
can't we can't get paid that with a degree. That makes sense. So what's the first job post grad?
So the first job post grad, I was a public affairs consultant for energy pipeline company. I found that job through an alumni. He had messaged me through Facebook and said that he had a possible internship that turned into a full-time job. And I was already graduating, so I told him my schedule, so it ended up just being a full-time job from the get-go. Um, my job there was to just support their project that was going on through Central Texas at that time. It was like a $3 billion project, and having to go out to communities, speak to community stakeholders, local politicians, local property owners, just to be the face in person and like basically liaison between the company and the stakeholders, anybody who was involved. Logistically plan their open houses and just go to town hall meetings and whatnot. It was it's a good job. I'm not taking that. I'm not taking that like any away from like anybody who's doing consultant work in public
Sure.
affairs. Um, for me myself, I was one person in that team, and I was straight out of college, not really having any guidance. So for me, it felt like I was being thrown into the sharks without giving any like
Yeah.
floaties or like without anything. And so I had to learn a lot very quickly, felt very overwhelmed and whatnot. Pay was great. I mean, I was 23 years old, getting paid almost six figures and living in Austin. Like it was on paper, it was good, but ultimately it just wasn't. I realized very quickly and early on that I did not want to be
Right.
there for much
So
longer.
so it was the red flag. Obviously, your red flag is that you are thrown into this position with little guidance and little mentorship. But were there?
Little guidance, little mentorship, and then ultimately it was it felt bad working environment altogether. I was doing like when I was going into the office, I was in a cubicle with no windows and like barely I was working. Like my team wasn't even here. My team, they were based out of Chicago.
Ooh.
So I was the only one out of that team to be here in Texas. With the little communication that I had with them was either over the phone or through text. And so I'm more of a face-to-face type of
Right.
person, and I learn hands-on. And so if you were to tell me what to do, I can do it. However, it doesn't feel like I'm retaining anything, or it feels like I'm being guided in a sense. So for an entry-level job, it felt that there was no guidance or mentorship, and ultimately my boss was very micromanaged.
Uh,
Like he loved to micromanage, and I think that's just a red flag for myself. Like I don't really work well under people who micromanage. Like just tell me what you need to do, give me a deadline, and I can do it. If I need help, if I need to ask for like anything, I'll come and talk to you.
yeah, I'm definitely
But
on the
I
same
would,
wavelength. I don't work well with
yeah,
with micromanagers.
no, like I would prefer like a supervisor to tell me what I like need to do, and then I for them to trust me to do it. And then if they don't like it, if they feel like they can give me some criticism, I'll take it and I'll work with it. But it's more of like a trusting. If you don't trust me so much that you had to micromanage me, then that's an issue.
That's really important. So if you're an employer listening to this, young people coming out of college, some of us just need to be trusted to do the job, and then learn as we
Yeah, I
go.
mean, trust, like you hired us for a reason, so trust us for a second. And if we fall short, we fall short, and then give us like some oh my god, I
Constructive
can't think of words
criticism.
today. Yeah, constructive criticism, and like give us some leeway to like where we can like better ourselves, because we're only going in like with the knowledge that we know and experience, and like trust us to try it out and fail, and then but give us the guidance after that to succeed even like more
Yeah,
and be better.
people learn from their failures. I mean, there's a quote out there:
Yeah,
fail often, fail frequently, learn from that failure." And that's super duper important. And that's people
yeah,
like us. That's what we need. We need to fail so that we can learn and do better.
yeah, exactly. And we'll talk on that. Well, I don't know. Like, well, there's another note that I want to put there because well, I'm now trying to do like a little startup, but that's something that I've always wanted to do, but I haven't done it because I was so scared of failing.
Oh,
And that's where it clicked to me just the other day where I want to do so much stuff, and then like I am my own worst enemy, that I am not doing anything with it because I am scared to fail. But how can I get better if I don't fail and know what to do
that
next?
is so
So
good. That is so good. The first three episodes were all about side hustles. You're hinting at entrepreneurship, which we're gonna have a series all about entrepreneurship. And we every time I talked to somebody about their side hustles, we talked about limiting beliefs. We talked about those things that hold us back.
yeah,
And a lot of the times, it's just ourselves. It's that self doubt.
it's self-doubt can literally I like can just ruin you. I mean, I've with the pandemic that's happened like freaking like just I mean it's still going on and it feels like it's never gonna end.
Right.
But there is just so much self-doubt because there's so many things that you cannot control, but you can only control what you can and just learn that just to move forward and then not to fail because it wasn't basically your fault. So that's what something that I had to learn. And so if anybody else out there that is, kind of feeling that they're self-doubting themselves and going into like a dark time of just not knowing like what's next, like what you're capable of. So just do it. If you fail, you fail, then keep going. And that's something that I've had to tell
I
myself.
love that. I think that's fantastic. Every single person that's come on the show, when we talk about advice for people that are trying to do something, their advice has always been just do it. Just go on with your bad self and do the darn
What's
thing.
yeah, go on. What's stopping you?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. But jumping back to that first job,
Yeah, sorry.
we went on a rant, but I thought it was really good. So with your first job, we talked about some of the red
Yeah.
flags that you talked about. Specifically, I want to ask about, were there any red flags with your mental health? Because I think that we can really see those
Uh
red flags pretty clearly when it's a mental health red flag.
Yeah, I mean, I I think as humans we're very social. We're very like it's just social human beings that there is some interaction needed when it comes to like face to face with coworkers or even like friends or anything. And so for me, when I felt like I was being stuck in an office for about 40 hours a week, where I was working like 60 hours a week. So 40, about literally 40 was in the office and where versus the other 20 was finally getting outside and like just going and speaking to other people. Um, but for a majority of my days, I was stuck in an office with a laptop in front of me, um, white walls, barely any windows. And there was a couple offices down, but this is also another thing, another red flag where could a person work with an age gap
Mm.
because I felt so there were the other employees that were there, they were contract employees for the company, but they were all maybe 40 plus and up, had kids, had their own lives. So I was 22, 23 there, the only young one, and there I felt very disconnected from the other coworkers to where like I couldn't even have some sort of community within that position.
That's really tough.
Um,
I mean, as a
yeah,
as a young teacher, right, coming into the teaching field, a lot of the people are old enough to be my parents. Luckily, I've gone into a situation where they're all very loving and welcoming. But at first, it's like I had to break past. Like, yes, these people are much older than I am. But we're doing the same job. We're doing an important job as
yeah,
well.
yeah. And I think that it wasn't the fact that like I couldn't communicate with them or like we couldn't relate on some sort of level. It was more of I think they couldn't they it was more of them looking down on me as of like, oh, you're young, like you'll learn, versus like, no, yeah, I'm young, but I'm here in this position and I am capable of doing my job. Don't coddle me, type of thing. So, So being stuck in that room plus that issue, and then just adjusting the post grad life for your first job, there is a lot to there was a lot for, at least for myself, that I kind of had to just adjust to, not being able to see the same friends every day that I was seeing for 4+
Right.
years, not the same routine and whatnot. So it's a whole relearning process of who you are as a person post grad. Starting, there's just so much change, starting a new job, meeting new people and whatnot. So my mental health was a little all over the place, and very anxious all the time. And I it was hard to deal with it
Yeah.
at sometimes.
Absolutely. I wanted to spend a lot of time on this first job because I think our first job coming out of college, or even the people that don't go to college and just go straight into the workforce, I think that first job is really defining because it sets the tone. It sets the tone for the
Yeah,
rest of your
no, it
career,
does.
right?
hmm So yeah, that first job, like I felt I felt so mad and sad like afterwards when I finally left, because I was just like, is this it? Is this like life afterwards? Is this going to be every single job? Is this going to
That's
be,
scary.
is it was very scary because I had such a bad experience. I mean, it was a good paying job, so I ended up saving quite a bit before I had left, and I took like a little break because of how, frankly, for a lack of a better term, like for how traumatized I was from that first job.
Sure. I'm very proud of
Um,
you for saving. A lot of people don't do that. So I'm very proud of you for saving money.
well, I that person a couple years ago looking at me now is probably like, you need to start saving even a little bit more. So I'm not proud of my saving right now, but earlier I was. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So
definitely save. Whoever's listening to this, save
save your
too.
money. Ah, yes.
Yeah, very
We're gonna
that.
have some episodes on personal finance. So that's a really good.
Don't ask me for that one.
We won't have you on for that
Telling
show.
you right now.
Perfect. So you reference leaving this first job. What is the next step? Where do we go next?
So the next step, I ended up accepting another consulting job with a nonprofit with Delta Sigma Phi of our fraternity, and I was a recruitment specialist. Or they ended up changing my role as into a growth coordinator, um, for their new expansion projects at different universities across the country. So I ended up moving into Indianapolis, Indiana, about in June 2019. Yeah, June 2019, around there, and then was there for throughout the entire summer. I was based there, but I was able to travel a lot. I went to Cincinnati, Ohio. I had gone to, oh my goodness, Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and Minneapolis, Minnesota, while the time I was there.
Wow.
So it was looking back, it was a good job. I learned a lot, and it was ultimately like it was fun. Like that was a good experience coming out from that previous one.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely a very different scenario. But I know family is really important to you. Did that factor
Yeah.
into getting out of this second job?
Uh, Getting out of the second job. I mean, there was the second job was kind of getting out of it was a little bit different because the pandemic had happened.
Oh,
So and getting out of it, I was I I had other plans, to I was gonna do some side hustles like with the modeling entertainment industry, and like kind of just go with it. So, but missing family altogether when I moved out of state for that second job, yeah, it was tough. I mean, I moved to the Midwest all by myself. Luckily I had my best friend Erica help me. She helped me move there, and when I bought her plane ticket back, and when I dropped her off at the airport, I bawled like a baby because I was the only one there.
right.
But I mean, yeah, family is very important to me. So I called my mom every single day. I would call my brother almost every single day, like just anybody who had to come to check up on them, and FaceTime my cousins, FaceTime all my friends back home. But luckily, I did have that job. We were actually put into the same house, so anybody that worked there was the same. Very easy to make friends immediately when I moved because we kind of all worked together. We kind of all hung out quite a bit as well, and then eventually, about a couple weeks in, I started to venture out and started to meet new people. So it wasn't bad of a transition, and it made the homesickness like a little bit better because I was able to immediately just throw myself out there and meet new people.
Nice, nice. So looking back at your time with Delta Sig, what something looking back you're super glad that you learned? Like a very good skill that you learned or a very good life lesson that you learned.
Um, I would say, well, one thing I did learn. I don't know if this is a life lesson, but as far as I'm not as much of a big traveler for work anymore.
It sounds nice, but
Just
it's not
because
that fun, right?
yeah, it was great for a moment. I'll just put it, it's great for a moment, but then when you're traveling for 6 weeks at a time, go back home and like for like 2 weeks and then travel again for another 6 to 8 weeks at a different city. It felt very hard to set roots. It felt very hard to like make a place feel like home, and that was a big part for me. Wherever I live, like I try to make it as homey as
Right.
possible. Um, so traveling a lot and realizing that like I'm going to different Airbnbs every 6 weeks, like it was just tough to make a place a home. But um, just traveling and meeting so many people, that was definitely the best part. So I guess the number one lesson is that like if you haven't traveled much out of like any place that you're currently living, or if you're wanting to travel for work, I say do it. Like do it so just so you can meet so many beautiful people out there. Like I the students I had spoken to, like I had a student that had transferred or that was born and raised in China, and um I'm sure yeah, China. And I ended up going to Chapel Hill, and just hearing his like growing up experience, and other students that were from from either out of state or countries, and just going to different cities as well. Like I think traveling for work allowed me also to travel for leisure. So if there was a city close by that I've always wanted to go to, like I would go and meet up with some old friends I hadn't seen since like maybe they had graduated college, or like people that I just knew of, or like we were mutuals like from other friends, and kind of just exploring their city. Like I loved Chicago. I loved actually Louisville, Kentucky. That was actually a one that I was not surprised to like, but it's an okay city.
Interesting.
It's not bad. Right. And then yeah, just being able to travel and whatnot. So but yeah, that was probably the biggest life lesson, is like if I were to tell anyone if they were debating on traveling for work, do it, because you're going to meet so many different people,
Nice.
and it'll maybe help you change, I don't know, shape how you think about certain topics or issues.
That's really cool advice. I like that a lot. So how do we get back to Texas? And then how does grad school fit into this story?
So we got back to Texas because of the pandemic. So I had given, so before the pandemic had happened, I had was actually a signed model for a modeling agency out of the Midwest and in Chicago, and I had two contracts. So I my plan was to leave the current position with Delta Sig and end up moving to Chicago, find some side gigs. I was studying for personal training by then, didn't have my certification, but I was, just applying for jobs, and, anything that I can find. Luckily, it was a lot easier to find jobs back then. So I felt pretty set. I had interviews lined up, and then I had saved quite a bit as well, and was already looking at apartments, and give Delta Sig my 2 weeks. Within a couple of weeks later, we had gone into the pandemic, or we were looking like going into the pandemic, and lost that job because 2 weeks had happened.
Right.
And the other employers said that they're going on a hiring freeze. Um, didn't really know where life was going. I I was just so scared to be by myself in the Midwest for what that was going to be for 2 weeks, ended up becoming like for months.
Yeah, again, a very
Um,
scary situation that you're put
yeah,
in.
and so at one point I was just like, I guess I just have to move back to Texas because I really don't know what is going on. I was seeing a boy then, and so did he play a factor in it? Me moving back to Texas? No, not really, because I think I would have moved back to Texas altogether. Altogether. So I ended up moving back to Austin because that's where he lived and that's where I lived prior. So moved back, and then kind of was just taking it one day at a time
Yeah.
until then. And I thought, I guess the best way to get back into the world was grad school. And I no, I don't think some people realize how traumatizing the pandemic was for some people, regardless if it was, people were diagnosed with COVID or not. You have family member die. I mean, I had a family member die from COVID. So overall, the COVID pandemic was quite a bit traumatizing
Right.
because it just flipped my life upside
Very
down.
scary. Yeah.
I, I thought I had a plan. I thought I was able to see my future for the next 5, 10 years. And for the pandemic to happen, for me not to have a job, for me to go on unemployment for so many months and not be able to find a job for literally almost a little over half a year later, and finally get some income, and it was very traumatizing because I felt like I'm a person that not likes to, I tend to put my self-worth into my work.
Right.
So the fact that I wasn't working, the fact that I wasn't making any income, I just felt worthless. Like that's when all of my self-doubt that I'm having to fight through now stemmed from, because I was applying to so many jobs. I was maybe putting in 40, 50 applications a day and not getting anything in return. But it wasn't my fault. It was just the climate that we were in. And started off, so I overall eventually ended up finding a job. I was doing sales at a LA Fitness, working on minimum wage, barely getting by. And then I started bartending. Bartending was good money, a very different lifestyle that I thought I would have wanted for myself.
Right.
So
Because shirts were
that's a
optional.
whole other. So yeah, I started working at a gay bar, so shirts were optional. But that also led me, like, to be frank, to down a dark path I never thought I'd find myself in. I mean, like, when you start to work in nightlife, you start to see so many things, and you tend to be in certain environments that you never thought you'd be in,
Sure.
and it mentally kind of just messed me up. Like, we were encouraged at one point, I remember, um, to drink all the time while we were serving, and then, like, after that, like, after the bars were closed, we would party till like 6, 7 in the morning, like,
Wow.
drinking substances, like, just kind of just going with it. And it was fun for what I thought it was fun for a little bit, but then it became to a point where I was doing it to escape what I had been so traumatized with, of, like, not knowing where my life was going. Because by that time, my mental health was just gone for me.
Sure.
Like, I felt so worthless that, not to hate on a bartending job, like, you do what you have to do, not to hate on anything, like, whatever your hustle is, like, that's your hustle.
Right.
So you work in whatever is going to make you happy, make your money. Um, but I think how it messed me up, because how I grew up, I was held to such a certain standard, like, and where I thought my life needed to be, for me to see myself being messed up almost every weekend working as a bartender messed me up mentally. And it became a point where I was drinking and doing some substances to just escape and escape whatever I was feeling, and try to make some sense out of this. And so that I lost myself within that, but then ended up leaving the bartending job because I kind of hit like a rock bottom.
Yeah, that's
And
I'm gonna pause in your story because
yeah,
there's so much here that we have to dive into. I mean, it's submitting 40 to 50 applications a day. That shows an
yeah,
incredible drive. And so if you're out there and you're struggling, you have to have that drive. You can't
yeah,
complain about not having something if you're not putting in the dramatic effort to receive something. And
yeah,
that's I get
like
that
you
from your
just said.
story.
Yeah, you just said it. Like, I, for a moment, when those 40, 50 applications, like, were not going anywhere for me, I stopped. I was like, what? I became a person that was like, whoa, me, like, I'm not gonna get anything. So everything just started to spiral from there. And it ultimately affected how my relationships with my friends, with my family, with my ex-boyfriend at the time. Like, that relationship ended up becoming so toxic for us that, um I that it was just not good. And then like friendships, I isolate myself from friends. I started to isolate myself from family because I felt so lost that, and I felt like no one knew what I was going through.
Yeah, I think this is
You
really
know, I
important. If you see someone in your life that is going through something, there's some trauma there, and you just need to be there to support them. How do you think that you needed to be supported in that moment? Thinking back to the friends and the family that you were pushing yourself away from and isolating yourself, how could they have supported you?
I think about that all the time because I look back and sometimes I catch myself thinking, well, if I would have done this, then this would have happened, and find a different like outcome. But I think for like friends and families who see someone, kind of going through it, be more I guess feel be empathetic, like be understand where they're going, what they're going through. I think there have been some people, I'm not going to say names or what kind of relationship I had with them, but there were moments where I felt like I was just speaking into a wall and like no one was really understanding, or I would say how I was feeling or what I was going through, but then for them to be like, oh, just snap out of it, like you'll be like, just be happy, like don't worry about it. Like it's not that
That's not
easy.
how it
If there was like
works.
a happy if there was a happy switch, don't you think I would already gonna do it?
Right.
Like I would have flicked, I would have done that a long time ago, but that's not the case. Like, and there's something that I saw the other day. It was actually a TikTok video where there was this counselor, this like therapist, kind of. She was speaking at a conference, and she was saying, you know, any emotional or like mental hurt or trauma that a person goes through, you have to think of it as if it's like a strained muscle or broken bone. It doesn't take for the following day. You put it in a cast the following day, it's like better.
Right.
You have to think of it as like you have to go through rehab, you have to go to physical therapy. It takes time to feel better, to understand and whatnot, and that whatever trauma that you went through, that doesn't define you, or like that doesn't like make or break you. Like you just have to keep going, and time doesn't heal what you do. So it takes time to heal, but you do the healing.
Right.
So this entire time I feel like I've been having to heal myself and take the time to do that, to heal from that trauma, from the pandemic, and anything that transpired from that, and take it from there. So for anybody who's, if you're going through it, just take your time and be patient with yourself and be forgiving of yourself. That's something I had to learn. And then if there's friends or family that know of someone or who see someone that's going through it, like take your time with them and be more patient with them, because they are doing the best that they can with what they're given.
Yeah, that's so good
So
and so inspirational. I think that it's so easy to say, you've got to forgive that person, and you've got to forgive people, you got to be forgiving, and all those things. But we don't spend a whole lot of time on forgiving ourselves, and that's the first
yeah,
step in forgiveness, in my opinion, is that if you can't forgive yourself, you can't forgive other people. And so
yeah,
that's really good and really important.
yeah. I mean, there's I'll admit, like there were some decisions I had made that ultimately like affected my relationships with some people, like that I may have hurt them in some way, but it was never with an intent to hurt. It was more of like I was hurting inside, and so I started to treat others not so
Sure.
good, like just being a little bit more mean to them specifically. You know, my past relationship, just being a little bit more mean or not respecting them and whatnot, but it was coming from a place of insecurity and hurt and self-loathing of like what I had gone through. And um but that never gave me the right to treat other people badly.
Right.
So if again, but like if you are going through it, like just know that you're not you're not alone, and be mindful of like your actions still. Like you don't want to hurt other people because you're hurting. And if there's friends and family again out there, just be more forgiving of yourself, be more forgiving of them, and if be more forgiving of like yourself, because you're doing the best that you can.
Very good. Very good. Thank you so much for being so vulnerable in this conversation. I think people are really going to get something from that. because you just have to be vulnerable to get real and get through
It's
things.
yeah, like it's tough because lately I for some reason I haven't been like wanting to talk about it because I don't know if it's I've understood that everybody's been going through it like with the pandemic, and so I think that I have always been afraid to talk about it um because I don't want to make it seem like, oh, I'm just another person like going through it or like that. But
You don't want to play the victim.
yeah, I don't want to play the victim because I feel like I'm not a victim because I'm really been trying to do everything that I can, but it's also very tough to keep pushing forward when it's like rejection after rejection with
Right.
everything. So
But
it's tough to
we
not.
eventually get you out of this toxic environment, and we get into this really great environment where I haven't seen you this happen in a really long time. So I want to talk about the good stuff
Oh
too.
yeah.
Where are you now?
Yeah, so now I am an Orange Theory coach. Almost pretty much full-time coach at Orange Theory. I absolutely love it. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
I coach sometimes early mornings and mid mornings and then in the afternoons. But so like for example, on Friday I work uh I have a class at 5 a.m. I wake up at 3:45. I'd have no problem waking up at 3:45 in the morning to get ready and provide them like with the best workout of their life and be so energetic and like get them moving.
That's major.
I
That's
often
major. If you're willing to get up
it
at
is because it's
3:45 and be energetic, like this is the job.
I mean I mean I may have had maybe too much coffee, but like to get me through it, and also Reigns or Bangs like those energy drinks like they get me through it. But it's fun because you're the first thing that they see in the morning. Sometimes like they get up, they go try to get a workout in, and I mean I feel like I don't know if you work out or whatnot, but like sometimes like you want to go to work out to feel good.
Right.
And so if you have a coach, if you have a personal trainer or anything that you're working out with and they're not doing their job, they're not doing their best, it's reflected on how like you may feel like in a workout. And so I really try to go in sometimes and like, well, not sometimes, most of the time to like be my best and put on some good music, like get them hyped up and make a fun, like have not make fun, like have fun with them, have fun with the workout. Like you're coming in, giving me 60 minutes of your time to be tortured, basically.
Yes.
Like it doesn't have to feel like that. Like let's make it fun. It's if you want to hear a certain music, like I'll put it on for you and whatnot. And so yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. It is a good job. I absolutely love it. I see like maybe almost like 50 to 60 members a day, and whatnot. And so it's fun. Like they all start to follow me on Instagram. They send me messages like, thank you for a good workout. Like just the other day I had a girl named Kat in my class, and she messaged me. She's like, I'm not a morning person. This is a Saturday at 7:30. And she's like, I'm not a morning person, but I have been going to Orange Theory for like, she said like 5+ years at different states, and you're definitely one of my favorite
Oh, I
coaches.
love that.
And so just to hear that, just yeah, and it's also like a good, cool thing too because you are working and you're seeing the reward already immediately. You know how people feel right after you get those little messages. I also remember one of my first classes that I taught after being trained and whatnot, going through the certification test. Her name was Tammy. She came in for her first class. She ended up signing up a membership. I taught her first class, and she came back to one of my other classes just this last week, and she's improved so much within like a couple of weeks I had worked there. And she had gone to like other coaches classes, so I hadn't been able to see her, but she came into one class, and on the treadmill she was a power walker, and she is now running. Like she is now like running on it, and she like you could tell the difference in her face, like of how happy she is. Like I saw her getting stronger. She's having more mobility in her body and whatnot, and it's just so cool to see how just a couple weeks
Yeah.
ago, like you came in very shy, not really wanting to pick up weight, not really wanting to like push yourself on the treadmill or like or you're just push yourself ultimately to now seeing her pushing herself just a little bit more and really being happy.
Yeah.
And so that all that ultimately just makes everything about that job feel.
I'm sure seeing that progress is super fulfilling, and that is amazing. And so, if you can tell me, getting into this job that you're currently in, what are the some of the green lights that people should look for when they found the job, they found the one? What green light should we look for?
Definitely. Do you feel good like afterwards? Like, do you love waking up in the morning, um, to go to your job? Like, you should. That was one thing that I also like noticed in my other jobs were red flags, but now it's like green flag for this one is like if I hate waking up or if I love waking up in the morning to go to this job, do I feel excited all the time to go to this job? And which I do. I love it too. Do you have a good working environment like with coworkers? Like that is a big part of it as well. Like we have fun, like we talk all the time, like we have group chats and whatnot. But like time and place for like certain things, like group chats like for fun, group chats like for work. Um, and when we are in work, do we work together well? Are we a team? That's something also with Orange Theory, like for our members, like when we talk to them as a group, as a class, we're like, okay, team, you're doing this movement and this movement because we are a team. We are working towards we are individuals having different individual goals, but we are a team that is working towards one goal, ultimately just to better ourselves. And so that type of culture is like within the group as well. So if you have a good culture, good coworkers, another green light.
Super motivating.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So and I mean other things like obviously like pay, time, like do what you need to do to like that's to help you get by in life as well. So those are another green flags. But ultimately, the number one, do you love what you do? Are you having fun with it?
Yeah.
Are you proud of it with the work that you did after like 5 p.m., after what you got done with work? Like, are you proud of what you did
Are you
today?
proud of your
And so
work?
lately I have
That
been.
is so
Yeah.
good. And so before we get to the closing questions, I saw on Instagram the other day that you are starting up some freelance work, and it sounds like you referenced it earlier in the show. Quickly, tell me about
Yeah.
your freelance work that you're trying to start up, and then we'll get to the closing questions.
Yeah. So I mean, with this new transition into this job, so other, I think really quickly, I don't know if we touched on it. So I decided to not go to grad school. It was just a decision that I had made during the pandemic of like, I felt like I had to do it. So it was out of fear and haste. And just over the time, as I got into that program and going through with it, like I realized I wasn't really sure I was in a headspace to actually apply myself into the program. And I didn't want to put myself through it without being 100%. Anyways, so I ended up leaving, and then so I'm starting now this. So I'm doing online on one-on-one training, and just as another side gig to on personal train people do like online. I think it with the pandemic and whatnot, gyms being still what they are, and not everybody being able to find a personal trainer within their area. Like I've kind of just opened it up to my social media platform, and I gauged it a little bit who would be interested in some online personal training, and I got quite a bit um of interest. Like so I've been doing emails all morning all morning today and into the afternoon, and taking it through there. I also there was people at Orange Theory that had asked me, why won't you do this? And it came down to
Ooh,
being scared that I was going to fail my clients and not give them programs that would ultimately get them like to reach their
right.
goals and whatnot. um but I've been in the health and fitness like world for 5 plus 6 years, I think. Like, and I had my own fitness journey of myself, like being almost close to 300 pounds my freshman year to now being under like two, like we're about 195. So I've had a lot of learning experience, and I've tried different training, just different trainings. Like I was doing CrossFit for throughout the time I was in college, so 4 years of that, going into just doing my own thing, learning what not to do and what to do at a gym. Like if you're going to LA Fitness or Gold's Gym, to I was a member at Orange Theory to like now being a coach there. So I've been able to see different things of parts of the gym that I feel like I am now ready to just take the plunge and take in clients and take the knowledge that I have of like becoming a certified personal trainer to coaching to like doing to trying all different types of workouts to get people to their goals and just make them feel good about themselves
Right.
and whatnot.
So if
So
I'm interested in your one-on-one
so yeah.
online fitness program, what's the Instagram handle? Drop it right here.
Yeah. Oh, so the Instagram handle is still, it's just my personal profile at the moment. So at Lalo Escovar. But so right now I kind of gauged it. I had some emails sent out this morning. So still taking gauging prices and whatnot as far as like how much like the client will pay and what they
Yeah.
receive. I'm looking at more of you'll get a 4 to 6 week program depending on what your goals are and what and how long you want to do it. You'll be provided a workout program along with nutritional guidelines, and like what recommendations. If you want it very more personalized, we can go that route as well. Depending, because also it depends on like what their lifestyle
Right.
is. So I get to know more about them, what their goals are, what works with their schedule, and whatnot. And then I'm gonna try to get like start to record myself like videos of like movements that they're needed to of what they needed to do, send them the movements and give them options of what else to do. For example, if they can't do a certain chest press with a barbell and whatnot, if they can't do it, they're whether it's like limit of mobility or weight or anything like that, we'll move you to just on the floor like with push-ups and or using some straps like TRX straps to get you that the foundations of your strength first before we can add more weights and whatnot. So stuff like that, and just everyday check-ins, weekly check-ins of like measurements, weights, and like photos, and ultimately just being a lifestyle health coach for them. I think my mission through for this is that I could give you all the resources, I could tell you what to do, but mentally that is where the hard game
Yeah.
is. There's going to be some days where you don't want to go to the gym.
Yeah.
There's going to be some days where you don't feel motivated. There's going to be some days where you feel like you don't see the results, and then that's when I come in and be able to prove themselves with their weekly check-ins and whatnot. Like, you've already made so much improvement, like don't stop, like, and just give them everyday motivation to keep going. So it's starting up right now. Actually, it's funny, it's literally just started the other day, and did the emails this morning, and so I'm already setting up phone calls this week. And again, I wouldn't have maybe even gone this far to get people to find interest or get some phone calls next week if I wasn't scared.
Yeah. I
So
love
I
it.
I literally had to just like set that aside, but like, you can't be scared, you just have to
You
do it.
just have to do it.
So
That's incredible. I hope it blows up for you, Lalo. I think that you're doing
thank you,
amazing
thank you.
things, and that's really really good. So let's get into our closing questions. My first one
Yeah.
is just for somebody who's experiencing that career confusion. They're in their 20s. They're out of high school. They're out of college. They're experiencing that career confusion. What is just one piece of advice for that person?
um do I It's gonna sound very cliche and very just like everybody says this, but ultimately do what makes you happy. Like, whatever that is gonna like just ultimately make you happy, and also making sure like your bills are getting out paid and
Right.
whatnot. Like, so like take care of yourself first. You're in your 20s, take care of yourself first. I myself am a very people pleaser, so you tend to like give other people your energy, but ultimately please yourself first, do what makes you happy, and making sure that you're okay ultimately financially, mentally, emotionally. But that is it. Like, career confusion, like, you'll find what makes you happy. You'll find your forever job when it comes to it.
Nice.
And it's again, so don't feel like you have to chase it, just do whatever makes you happy, and it'll
That
come.
is so important. So taking career confusion out of the conversation for a moment, what is something as an individual, Lalo Escobar? What is something that you are trying to figure out as a young adult right now?
What a closing question. I'm over here. uh I'm right now, I'm trying to find my purpose, like what I feel like I is my purpose, in life. You know, I think that we're all part of something bigger than just ourselves, and we're all part, like, whether you believe in like some sort of religion, you believe in like a universe, you believe in some sort of God, but I feel like we're all part of something bigger than just ourselves, and we all have a purpose. And so right now, for me, it's just finding what that purpose is and just being proud of it and like leaving a good lasting legacy, whatever that may be. Um, and ultimately just being happy altogether, finding a purpose and being happy. That's what I'm trying to find right now.
That's so good. So important. I love every piece of what you just said. So if I want to learn more about you, or I just want to see you shirtless, where do I go to find that?
Oh my god. Oh my gosh. You can follow my social media at Lalo Escovar on Instagram and on, I guess, Twitter. Don't follow me on Twitter, please. No. Just go to Instagram. But no, my Twitter is actually not that bad. There's if you're a part of the gay community, you know why I'm saying like Twitter is just a whole other world for some certain people.
So stick to Instagram.
But yeah, then you can find. No, but you can definitely find me on Instagram. I tend to post a lot of my fitness stuff there and whatnot, and any just life updates. I mean, yeah, definitely Instagram, and then Facebook if you want to find me on Facebook. Maybe from hopefully soon I'll have a website up as far as like for the personal training.
Yes.
As we go on with the startup, so that will be up soon, hopefully, and then that page as well.
Yes, so. Thank you, Lalo. I've also decided that I am going to make my guests define words for me, because why not? So I'm going to make you define something. Let's see. I'm going to make you define fitness.
Ooh. Oh, okay. Do you want just like my definition?
Yeah, I want your definition.
Or, like, what I think? Okay, yeah. Fitness it is. The way I like to think of fitness is just being the best version of yourself. So whatever food, like whatever the nutrition is, whatever workout you're doing, you're fit in all aspects of whether it's strength, ability, agility. There's like different components of fitness. I'm blanking because now I feel like I'm doing a test question. But the foundations of fitness, whether it's strength, gymnastics, flexibility and whatnot, and your overall like health and nutrition is like okay, with including your mental and emotional health. Like if you're all put together, if you feel like put together, you're on top of your game of your health, fitness, emotionally and mentally, all that. That's what fitness is.
Nice.
You're doing the best that you can. Whether it's 10 minutes outside taking a walk or when you're running a whole marathon, like you're doing the best that you can.
Nice. Well, I'm going to pull that and I'm going to submit it to Webster and it's going to be put in the next dictionary.
And then just run me my check.
Exactly.
I'm going to copyright it.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much to all the listeners for listening. Follow all of my social media at How to Adult with TW. And make sure that you like and review the podcast and share it and all of the good things. If you want to contribute to the podcast, there is a contribution link in the description. Thank you so much. And remember, together we're going to learn how to adult.